Welcome, I'm Elise,
And I'm Jess, and this is Spiritual Alchemy,
the podcast where we explore the intersection of science and spirituality
and how it shapes our everyday lives.
We're back.
Here we are.
We're back.
Hi, Elise.
Hi, Jess.
Well, I think we can jump on in today.
We're not just talking about karmic connections. We are specifically talking about
Twin flames and soulmates.
Woo.
And what makes a twin flame and a soulmate, and what identifies them as specific types of karmic connections that push us towards radical change.
Yeah. It's hard to put into words. So I will just say it's that inexplicable gut feeling that you get. It's the butterflies, the flushed, warm feeling on your cheeks, or it's where you just click with someone immediately. You're like, I know you. I don't know how I know you, but I know you.
So the way I think about it, and I think that through research on this, my feelings will evolve as we talk. But when I initially think about twin flame, I do think butterflies, but I think like butterflies in a bad way, like butterflies in an anxiety way, and my body going on alert, being like, "Ee!" Like danger, danger, like this is gonna be intense. And when I think soulmate, I think peace.
Ooh.
I think like a sigh of relief. I'd like to think, and again, such a metaphysical topic, because again, there's no way to prove these exist. However, it's take what resonates, leave what doesn't. But I would love to think that your soulmate is someone who makes your life and your lessons clearer, and not that they make them easier and they don't carry them for you, but maybe they stand there and face the storm with you.
They hold your hand.
And there's a saying that when you're with somebody who you feel that emotional connection to, that you are tied to, and they've done psychological studies that if you're looking at a hill and you're with somebody you love and you have that connection to, the hill seems less steep. And when you're alone, that hill can seem a lot steeper. So
I love that. And we've talked about soul family. So soulmates are still in that idea of soul family. But what I've always found very interesting in talking to a lot of people in the spiritual community is twin flames, some people believe, is that your soul was once unified. And your twin flame is your soul at some point fractured apart. And that's who your twin flame is. I think I've said it before. It's everything you aren't, and they are everything you are. It's the perfect mirror.
It's like the opposites attract trope.
Which is sometimes why it can be so volatile and scary and hostile and not a perfect fit, because let's think about this at a chemical level. If a chemical bond splits apart, there's probably a reason why it split apart. Maybe something wasn't working, something's going wrong. Maybe there was a reason that your soul at some point split apart so that you are separate from them. And so I unfortunately, I've witnessed people, I truly believe, get into romantic relationships with their twin flames. I have found a twin flame. My first love, I think, was a twin flame of mine. And it was the worst heartbreak I've ever felt. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to watch a friend go through is really trying to say goodbye to this love that she knew. She's like, I know he's so bad for me,
Mm,
but I love him so much. And I'm like, cut him loose.
yeah. It's so interesting that I've only ever really felt that magnetic pull towards a romantic partner very early in life, like in my teenage years. And I was 18 and it was like instant connection. Like we hadn't even spoken. We were just in the same room and just like locked eyes. And I was like, what the fuck is that?
That's so sweet.
It was sweet, but it was also very like we knew it and everybody else in the room knew it. And then suddenly it just kind of like snowballed and it turned into this relationship that was very like hot and cold, on and off, because I'm like, this is, yeah, it probably was a twin flame when I look back on it, because I was such a rebel child and a little like party animal, and I just loved to go out and have a good time. And he was not like that. He was such a goody two shoes. He was such a like bookish type guy, but like it bothered him, like my extracurriculars. And
Mm.
what was so funny was like the first time, because we got back together a few times, the first time we separated, it was I had called him out on some bullshit. Somehow we get pulled back together.
Okay.
Just life and ties and like knowing the same people, being in the same circles brings us back together. And he wins me back. And then the next time we break up, it's my behavior and him calling on me on my bullshit. And then we just keep repeating this pattern where then we get back together. I call him on his bullshit. We get back together, he calls me on my bullshit. And
This cycle
this
of back
cycle,
and
and it
forth.
really just like we were so young, and like I think I was too emotionally immature at the time to really understand what I was supposed to be learning from that relationship, because I was like, I'm not changing. If anything, I'm getting worse. But
He
I was like, tee, I'm just a girl. But it really took me like getting away from that space and that community and that circle to like look at it from afar and be like, wow, yeah, that was the most intense connection. And we hurt each other in a lot of ways, but
it's, uh, it's the worst when you, because I myself, I'm thinking back, there have been relationships where when you're young and naive and you're still learning, sometimes it just becomes a tit for tat.
mm-hmm.
You hurt me, I hurt you.
And I'm gonna hurt you worse.
And then it just spirals into this back and forth until
Mm-hmm.
you become aware. You say, pause, I'm gonna step away.
Yeah.
Because it's not for good. This is not for my greater good. Like I
Yeah.
need to walk away from this because sometimes we get comfortable
Yeah.
and it feels safe. The dysfunction
Mm-hmm.
starts to feel safe
Yeah.
and almost, what's the word, like you can predict what's going to happen. It's safer to stay in something that's predictable
Mm-hmm.
rather than to be in something that's unpredictable, because that's scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, like we've kind I guess you've already answered the question. I was going to ask
Mm-hmm.
you that, have you ever met someone who felt more than just a match, or someone who seemed to mirror your own wounds or gifts, maybe perhaps?
Yeah. I said my first love was probably the closest thing I've had to a twin flame. I wouldn't necessarily label that a twin flame. I think
Mm-hmm.
it had a lot of the same characteristics as one. I definitely don't think I've met a soulmate yet, a
Mm-hmm.
romantic soulmate. I've met many, many companion soulmates. I have many, many friends in my life. Not many, many, but like a few very close friends, which could be a lot. Uh, that I just know we're here to take care of each other in this life and help each other through these lessons. And the reason I say that I don't think I've ever met a romantic partner in the sense of a soulmate is because yes, these types of connections are supposed to teach you things. Yes, I've had relationships that have taught me some of my hardest lessons. I've had some terrible tumultuous relationships. I've loved people before. I I just would like to think that the things that the people that I have loved have put me through, my soulmate would never
Mm-hmm.
put me through that. I yeah, I'm like there's no one that I would say like that was a soulmate connection. I'm like, no, that was a karmic connection and I had a lesson I need to learn because we had some unfinished business from a past life that needed some businessing. But I like to think that my soulmate would never hurt me the way that I've been hurt, would never abandon me the way I've been abandoned, would
Mm.
never put me through hell. I think your soulmate is supposed to, again, hold your hand and make the lesson less scary to face. Not do it for you, but definitely not pile on.
Yeah, I think we're opposite in that because I can think of a few soulmates that I've met, and what made me think of it is the endings of these relationships with these soulmates or twin flames. Every period after the breakup, it's like I had to do that part on my own. Does that make
Mm,
sense?
yeah. Again, I think, yeah, I feel different in that view because I feel like the karmic connection is the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think we didn't touch on this like last time we talked about karmic connections. A karmic connection doesn't always have to be a soulmate. A
Mm-hmm.
karmic connection does not always have to be a twin flame. To me, the term soulmate is sacred.
Yeah.
I'm not just throwing that out like all over the place. Same thing with twin flame. That is a sacred connection. Karmic connections do take the mirror and they go, okay, take a look.
Mm-hmm. Like,
Do you see
bye.
it?
Yeah.
And then they go. And again, I will say, like, well, a soulmate can show you things. I think a soulmate is more someone who holds you accountable and does call you out on things, but calls you out in a way that's like, hey, I know you know better. I know you can do better. Do better. I'm supporting you. I'm cheering you on, but I know you can do better. So keep
Mm.
doing better. Versus like a karmic connection feels a little more twirly.
Whirly whirly. So defining the terms. Soulmates.
Mm-hmm.
Souls whose lessons and life paths align. Exactly what you just said, often supportive, harmonious connections. And you can have many soulmates as friends, mentors, partners, parents, cousins,
Mm-hmm.
aunts, uncles, truly anybody.
Pets.
Pets can also be soulmates.
Mm-hmm.
But then twin flames, which I said a couple minutes ago, that it's two halves of the same soul split at creation and destined to reunite. Very intense mirroring. They reflect back your unconscious wounds as well as your highest potential. And I often see this as like the runner chaser dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Periods of separation of are common and then they come back together and then you might run apart and you might come back together. It's
Yeah, they're not
tw-
considered one and done.
twin flames are messy.
You know, it's also important to note that not everybody has a twin flame.
No, maybe your soul has not split yet and for
Yep.
that you be grateful. My twin flame, my first love. I was young, 19. In my gut, I know we are going to run into each other again, just
Mm.
based off of the work I do, where I'm heading in my career. We will at some point come back together again. But this time, obviously, I'm happy in a relationship. I know myself now. I think we'll be able to come back together in not like this hot, fiery hot, spicy way. We'll be able to come back together and learn what we're meant to learn. I know in my gut we're going to come back together. It's not done. It's
Mm.
not done.
In
I
another life?
no no no. In this life,
Oh.
TikTok, it's going to happen. We're
Okay.
the winds of fate are blowing.
They're blowing. The
They are
opportunities are
blowing.
coming a
And it's
knocking.
not like I'm like, looking forward to it. It'll
Mm.
definitely be uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but I think it'll be interesting coming back together. It's already been a decade at this point, more than a decade. It might be another decade.
Mm.
But I will share that we are in the same field
Mm.
and we're getting closer, and I'm like, oh, it's
Mm.
just a matter of time
Mm-hmm.
before we come back together. So
Yep.
stay tuned for
Which when you
that.
yeah, which when you do it, that's the eventual reconciliation
Exactly,
that
because we
occurs.
left not on bad terms, but we were young
Yeah.
and we were not ready to look at each other and learn. I really think what we needed to learn or come back, if we are twin flames, we were not ready to reconcile
Mm-hmm.
what we were meant
What
to
was
yep.
broken. Yeah. That's, I mean, that is the hard thing. And like twin flames, they're not always toxic.
Mm-mm.
So the concept of flames can be used to excuse and justify unhealthy behavior in relationships, but it's not inherently linked to toxicity. The idea is not toxic. It's just the potential for toxicity depends on the individuals involved. Again, like thinking of your youthful connections, young love, Romeo and Juliet,
Twin flames, 100%.
100% idiots.
Shakespeare nailed that one.
Yeah, hit the nail on the head. It's my least favorite Shakespeare play. I'm like, ugh. We he did so much better, but
Yet it's the most famous. I think, and I often think why? Because it is the most relatable. That being that young,
mm-hmm.
being that in love, and just the clouds that happen in your brain when you're in love. You are
Yeah,
not thinking straight by any means.
rose-colored glasses.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Blindfold.
yeah,
You can't even see.
no,
You are blinded by, I think at the root of it, I always say in English, we only have one word for love.
mm-hmm.
But in the romantic languages, they have lots of different phrases for love. Like the way that you would say I love you to a friend is very different from the way that you would say I love you to a family member, is then different to the way that you would say I love you to your romantic partner.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, in English, all we have is the word love. And it's not in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, it's not actually love. Maybe it was, but I think a lot of it was lust.
Mm-hmm.
And we often confuse lust and love, especially in English.
Oh yeah, it's lust is the primal.
Mm-hmm.
It's the biological reaction that we have. Love is so much deeper.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like when I think about it, I feel it like here, like in my chest. And that's why I was like, I love people with my whole chest. I just do. There's so much room for growth in love. There's not a lot of room for growth in lust because eventually that flame fizzles out.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I,
It's better to be loved than to be desired.
mm-hmm. So with the karmic roots, how does the idea of karma explain why certain relationships feel, let's call it fated?
Unfinished business. But the I talked about this in our past lives discussion. Dr. Michael Newton talks about in his Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls, what happens in our afterlife. And some of the case studies that he did do talk about soulmates and soul families and soul groups. And it's like going back to our soul contracts as well. It's like with your soul group and your soulmate, like you do have a soulmate, and you and your soulmate like kind of go over the contracts, like going over the details of everything. They're like, okay, like they're your second sign off on everything. And it was funny. There was a case study that it was a husband who had passed away and was watching his wife, like this is from his past life, this patient, watching his wife grieve him, and then he's watching the neighbor, the friend, come in and them get together and watching their relationship blossom. And he's like, well, aren't you jealous? And he's like, no, she's my soulmate. I'm not there. she's finding love somewhere else. How great that she gets to be loved again and he can love her in my place when I'm not there. How beautiful is that? And his wife's up here with me and they're soulmates too. It doesn't diminish our connection. It just is what's going on in this life. We've agreed to this. And I'll be here when she gets here. Like, what a very meta, but very beautiful.
I love that
kind of way to look at that is like you and your soulmate are truly tied together, but in the sake of growth.
I think that's a lot of things happen when people bind themselves together in marriages and whatnot. But I always think about the line "till death do us part." I mean, that is some heavy shit, because it can be a long life and it can be a short life, but until death do us part, that's a big thing to commit to somebody.
Yeah.
I know I often think about that one. It's often the line that when I attend weddings, it's always usually in there most of the time, or some iteration of it.
Till death parts us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, my grandmother, for example, has been a widow for 15 years, and she's never she never strayed. She always often says, "I just can't wait to get back to your grandfather." Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You've been roaming around here for 15 years and death has he parted, and you are still steadfast to him. And that is beautiful.
I think it is beautiful. I think, like, I can't even imagine losing your soulmate in this life. And I had a friend a while ago, and I forget why she was telling me this, but she was like, I've straight up told my partner that I want to go first because I can't deal with the thought of not being here with him. And she's like, I don't want to grieve you. Like, I'm going first. I call dibs. Like, and like makes it like a light conversation. But I was like, wow, like what a statement to make. Like, I'm not grieving you. I'm not going through the pain of losing you. So I get to go first.
Hey, you will it happens.
Hey, it does. How do I so okay, here's my question for you, Elise. How do you know if he really loves me? How do you know if it's your soulmate? How do you know if it's your twin flame? What are the signs? What are the initial signs? What are the takeaways?
I think go back to how you started it. Soulmates make your existence calm, peaceful. It quiets the waters. Picture yourself, you're on a rocky boat, you're in the middle of the ocean, you're in the middle of a storm, and soulmates are those people who are like, hey, come get on my bigger boat. Let's do this together. And you get on their boat and the water's kind of calm. Where I find twin flames more often than not, if you're on a small boat in the middle of the ocean, they're floating on a piece of wood. And you come together and the storms do not subside. If anything, it gets worse.
You got to really work together to build a better raft.
That might sound so extreme.
Yeah.
But it is extreme. This idea is extreme. And I would implore anybody, if they think they've met twin flames or soulmates, really dig into the initial connection. What was that first conversation like? What was it like the first time you spent one-on-one time with them? If it's a romantic relationship, what was it like the first time you held hands or kissed? Because I would describe it as electric. Like you literally get struck by lightning from Zeus himself. And hey, maybe someone would define that as lust, but call it what it is. It feels like getting struck by lightning. I'll give a different example, not romantic, but a dear friend of mine, hopefully she's listening, We met in 2015 in the dance department at Queens College, and we were cast in the same showcase. And we would just hang out in the dance studio as most people did. And she was a choreographer, I was a choreographer, and I was working on choreography to Hosier's Take Me to Church.
Mm.
And she goes, and we had literally met maybe like 2 weeks before this. Like we did not know each other. And she was like, I've choreographed this. And I remember saying to her, I was like, let's do an experiment. And we both did our choreography to the same song together. I probably have the video somewhere. It is the most magical thing you have ever seen in your life. We have very different styles of choreography, but somehow it fit. And I remember dancing and watching this in the mirror and watching her, and she's watching me, and we're not really hitting the same beats. We did not have the same sense of musicality as far as that song, but something about it just worked. And talk about a soulmate. I was like, what's up, girl? And we are still friends to this day, and we've learned a lot from each other. She's been there for me, I've been there for her. So talk about divine fate and soulmates. I mean, that's not romantic. Maybe it is romantic in like a friendship way, but I will never forget that moment. Nothing has ever been so solidified so quickly than that, where I was like, wow.
Yeah. I have a companion soulmate who was my best friend growing up. Hopefully he's listening. We also were roommates for 5 years, and like like very, very close, like sibling relationship. But what was always really funny to me is that we were so close, and like our souls were so like la la la, like we're just obsessed with each other. And when we would go out to like dinner or like go out and like do things, people would be like, "Oh, you're such a cute couple," and we're like, "Oh no, it's
No,
not
no,
like
no.
that. No, 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 no. We're obsessed with each other. We're not like that." But like, yeah, it was just such a. There's so much like love at the core of it, but like, let me tell you, there were some tough moments where we've had to kind of face our shit and support each other through it. Like again, that friendship started when we were 11. I bet I could still call him up and be like, "Hey friend, what's going on?" Catch up. It'd be like not a day had passed,
Yeah.
you know?
And those are the beautiful relationships we have to hold on to.
Yeah.
So, twin flames and soulmates through a psychological lens, and I'll keep it brief, the mirror neurons and emotional contagion, and explains why we feel what we feel. So, chemically, we can bond to people, even if it's not good for us.
So let's talk about physical intimacy for a second.
I'm strapped in.
Okay.
Strapped in.
When you are physically intimate with somebody, you literally become one. You share DNA, your DNA transfers to them, their DNA transfers to you. And you, on a physical level, right? That's like biology. Studies have proven that. In a spiritual, energetic level, you absorb some of their energy, they absorb some of your energy, but you also absorb their trauma. And you take on a lot of their trauma, and they take on any of your trauma. And again, this is very meta Jess of me to say. So take it or leave it, it's fine. But like spiritually, sometimes like you have to do these like energetic cleanses to
Get rid of it.
Get rid of it, because you're taking on that person's pain. Sometimes like you might be moved by emotions and you're like, where is that coming from? It's not yours, someone else's. Essentially, like you're sharing energy just as much as you're sharing DNA. You're energetically tied to people. So
yeah,
think twice.
working with karmic connections, because these are karmic connections, soulmates and twin flames,
Mm-hmm.
you can use the intensity as a catalyst for shadow integration and self-love. So if you haven't listened to our shadows episodes, part 1 and 2, go back and listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to set healthy boundaries and practical, radical self-responsibility. Going back to your think twice,
Mm-hmm.
you got to think twice. And just remember that the integration of lessons is the union within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always going to preach, go back to self-love. You gotta take care of yourself first. You gotta love yourself first.
Yeah.
Before you invite others to come in and love you as well.
Yeah. If you can't love you, how can you expect someone else to come in and love you? Because it's so hard to love somebody who does not love themselves. It's not impossible.
It's just hard.
But it's hard for them to accept the love that you're giving. It's not about you not being able to love them. It's about them not being able to accept that because they don't understand why you love them. It's a heavy, heavy thing to get past. But again, hopefully these are supportive
ideas
and
questions. So journal prompts. Recall a relationship that felt fated. What old pattern was it inviting you to heal?
Which qualities in your partner reflect your own shadow or unexpressed gifts?
How would your life change if you approached this connection as a mirror for your own growth? So accepting what is and looking forward to the future with optimism.
Yeah. Beautifully said.
Until whoa. Until
Honestly,
next time.
This is my soulmate right here.
Wait, hold space.
Hold space.
We'll catch you next time.
Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us today. We're so glad you were here. For more information on our episodes and to connect with us on social media, follow us at Spiritual Alchemy Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Stay golden!